Okay. All right. Welcome everybody today to Raymar's Artist Talk for his solo exhibition, LIGHTSTRUCK PHENOM. And we're joined by two amazing guests, which I know have been big parts of Raymar's journey. And so we are live, so welcome to everybody who's tuning in. Thanks for everybody who's here. We've got a great turnout today. Without further ado, I'm going to let you guys take it away so I can go live on all of the streaming platforms available.
Yes. Thank you, Paulina. Hey guys, I just want to introduce you to me and my guests. So if you don't know me personally, my name is Raymar. Thank you for supporting me in this exhibition. It's my first one, so it's been very exciting. These two women are my mother and my art mother. This is my mom, Jennifer, and this is my art mother, Mara, and I grow up later. And I picked them specifically because I felt like in conversation they'd be able to break certain things down in a way that somebody random couldn't. So although I could have had any choice of person to just, be in the art world to interview me, I would rather it be something I felt true to like the concept, which is essentially me showcasing the people and the places that made me who I am. So I want to talk to them and have them ask me questions and then talk to you. So yeah, you guys could introduce yourselves more.
Okay, I'll go first. I am Jennifer, as you say, Raymar's mother. And Anthony, I'm sorry, I'll never come by his middle name.
So if you don't know,
the PR got shot right in the first second. Fine. So, Raymar, yes, my son. He's always, don't start laughing. But he's always been very creative since a baby. Like I've always seen something in him, and I knew that he would go very far, even further than me, because I'm an artist too. Or I wouldn't say was, but
What do you do?
What do I do? What don't I do? Seriously, a vocalist, a model. What else have I done? I've done natural hair, songwriting, background singing. I cook, mother, wife, a daughter, all the things, arts. I'm more of the performing artist, not the visual art. I wish I could paint and do the things, but for me, it's always been music and modeling and writing. Oh, book writing, fiction writing. I started a magazine in like 2004 when I was coming up in my 20s. So, all the things. Dang.
It's laughing. I'm Mara. I am an artist and an educator and a curator here in this lovely place we call home. I have worked with Raymar for a long time, which we're going to end up getting into at some point here. That's really the basics about me, because today's about you, buddy. So I'm just going to jump right in because I feel like we just need to get started. I think the most important thing to me, about this body of work, the LIGHTSTRUCK PHENOM work, is that it is really rooted in history. So I want to hear more about, and I feel like this is a conversation with both of you, I want to hear more about you growing up, you finding your way creatively, how that all happened.
Yes. Okay, so as she mentioned, she is an artist. My dad as well, he was producing and writing and rapping when I was growing up and before I was born, which is how they connected. They have a history of that together. But they were the first two people that were artists that I was ever introduced to because they basically lived it. So growing up for me, I was at school and at the studio, like very young age. And then I attracted myself to music and instruments. And simultaneously, I got into like drawing and painting. So before photography, that came kind of late. It actually came like middle school or high school. But before everything, it was music and drawing. So just kind of like having the routine of like getting up, going to school, her dragging me to the studio after school with Wendy's. That was how I was trained. from a very young age.
That is
on-
literally
That is actually stuck.
Yeah, it's stuck in my head for sure. I remember everywhere. If y'all know Greenfield Plaza, I've been all up and through there since too young. So
the
that
studio everywhere. Like when he was a baby, he was at the studio. Like my friends were like, "Where's Anthony?" I'm sorry, I have to say it. But I was like, every time he was there, like he was around music all the time. So he would sleep through it all. Like the noise, he would sleep through everything. When I used to go perform in Kalamazoo, he was there on the side of the stage. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's seen me do everything, any of that too.
Yeah, so that's, I think, what first introduced me to anything art. As it carried on, because there was always so much music around me, that came with like a lot of visual commentary in the house and around. So like seeing the albums on the floor or like posters or CDs and stuff, I used to just like look at all her stuff and go through the books and like read stuff. And I was really attracted to that world, like watching music videos, watching films, seeing how like they package it all together as a concept. And then I would just like sometimes go to recreate the photos or like draw them out myself. And that just kind of picked up. Middle school, I transitioned into the more like performing arts side of it with like dance. So I transitioned from music and instruments to dancing, and I was doing camps during the summer through my middle school career with my stepsisters. And that also led to us having a dance crew on the block, which was hilarious. But that was a big part of my childhood because we would literally go to school, come home, make dances, go outside, go back in the house.
Make
Yes.
videos. Make videos of dances.
Make videos of dances. And then like technology became a thing. She was real strict on like me and tech, not like strict parenting, but definitely I can have access to everything. So when things like tablets came out and more video related devices came out, I didn't have my own, but I could use theirs. So I would take my dad's stuff and like record me and my siblings growing up. And after a certain amount of time, I would take those videos and turn them into trailers. So there are random shows on like my clouds of devices that say like season 1, season 2, mind you, no name to the show, like just the trailers. And it would be a combination of a bunch of videos of me and all my people just doing whatever. And I think it was just all subconsciously cooking the whole time, and like just me getting in that mode of creating things and documenting things, whether it was myself or my siblings, because I was directly next to me. So yeah, it just kept going. High school came around. I had my first photo class.
Well, wait, pause.
Oh,
You made a choice to put him in an art school.
I did.
Okay, let's talk about
We
that.
kind of skipped that part.
you right.
So you were at Bradford first.
Yes, I was at Bradford and then Coolidge.
Yes, and so when I found out about, I don't want to butcher HF.
Henry Ford Academy School for Creative Studies.
Right, I'm like, I don't want to butcher it, but when I found out about that school, he was in 6th grade, because it was second semester.
I was in 5th grade.
Fifth grade, and we were on the waiting list for the next year. And I'm like, you should go to this art school downtown, Oak Park, but you think the school downtown, yeah, go to this art school downtown. And you got into the school, and so that was the start of that.
Yeah.
Going to the high school, middle school, and then staying there for high school.
That was my imaginary Victorious. Like that, what definitely, I walked in there, girl, I'm not gonna lie. I walked in there like, we about to paint the lockers, we about to like do this whole thing. It was not that.
It was not
It was not that. But however, it was still the first place that I was surrounded by artists at all the time. And the one thing I really liked about that experience was, regardless on if we all graduated and went into art or went into drawing specifically, because it was definitely based in like a lot of visual art, drawing and painting. Everybody that was there tried, like being around the energy of like trying to learn it and trying to figure it out, whether you did it or not for real, was like the best part. And I think that kept me like inspired.
And I'm going to say that Raymar, he was not into drawing, and he can draw. He could look at something and draw. He was that child. So I'm like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's wrong? What have I done? And he would just be so hard on himself and so critical of his work, but he's really great at drawing. He just did not want to stick with that aspect, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, artists gotta find their medium.
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of the deal.
But he was really critical, and I'm like, you have a great eye. You can pick up a piece of whatever and just draw. I don't know, got that.
You definitely.
Not sure.
Just a few
Maybe
with that, possibly, yeah.
My father started painting late in life, like later on in life. During the pandemic, was it? He started doing like abstract paintings, and I'm like, what?
But they are beautiful.
Yes, they are. Like, I was so amazed. I'm like, wow. So we were in the house, and he just started painting. So, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now high school.
High school, yes. So high school comes around. Everything carries on. It's very much like videos at home. But then late high school, I had a photo class. That didn't really work. That teacher left. I'm not going to say too much. I got you to be our type.
That was your sophomore year, at the end.
Oh, yes, it was. Sorry, sophomore year.
Or no, it was the end of your junior year,
Because I had your senior year. So I was right. Okay, junior year, yes. Then senior year came around, and she took over the department. And that was my first official photography teacher. She was my first official photography teacher. And it was the first time that we had a, like, for real photo department at the school. We had a photo club at the school that I used to go to with some of my friends, but we didn't have actual class during school.
There was always like one random kid per year that they would be like, this kid's a photographer. And the kid would like take pictures of like grass. And they'd be like, yes, it's so great.
It was
they'd give them a
one kid
whole
every year.
wall on the student show. And I'd be like, if somebody actually knew about photography upstairs, we'd have a lot going on actually.
Yeah, and we did. She
So.
took over and it went well. And I think that was a place where I figured out, like, okay, yes, visual arts. This is my visual art voice. Like, this is where I belong. It's not necessarily painting per se, but it's definitely like bringing those video ideas as a kid or picture ideas as a kid to life. And then so on and so forth.
Right. So when you were in school, you ended up making the decision to go to CCS, which you had a full ride, so we're going to talk about that because they don't give that many of those out.
I did.
Okay, and then on photography, which they also super don't give that many of those out. Like that's a real niche situation, right? How did going to an art school, you think, further your development?
Probably the same reason that I said when I first got to the middle school. I think it was like just the exposure to that many people at once doing what you're trying to do. Because like, I was a little scared going into it just because of how people made it sound. Like CCS was like, it felt like the final boss. Like if you went there, I feel like before 2020, it sounded like this was the last thing you had to do to prove yourself. And I was very scared going into it because they was like, y'all not gonna make it. People were saying that. They was like, they were not expecting us.
I wasn't saying.
No, she wasn't, of course not. But people there were saying that like people from our school would not actually survive it. But I saw it happen already and I knew it was possible. So like getting in there, I just really enjoyed being around like my people and seeing like the progression and how we're all kind of like struggling it through and just figuring it out. I think that's what really like helped me mentally. I think from like a more artistic standpoint, the different types of teachers actually is what taught me about my artistic style, because every art teacher has their own artistic voice. And I think like I naturally cling to some people more than others, as anybody would. So seeing the different ways that different professors processed like art and talked about it is how I was able to like figure out, oh, I think I like that way of thinking, or I agree with that way of thinking. And I especially did that with her for sure, even though she wasn't my teacher in college. I kind of stayed in contact, obviously, and yeah, we'll get there. I just think like finding the different ways that people understand art was my biggest thing about getting through and how college taught me how to be an artist.
I have a question. So during the pandemic, of course, you were at home. And how did that affect your mental state? And how did you cope with that during that time? And how did it affect your art, like going forward? Because you were all at home, like what is happening in the world right now? So.
Well, that was ghetto.
A big film during that time.
I did. That was extremely ghetto. I'm gonna say this. So we and y'all was there. There's people in the back that was around for this. We went to a party, like probably the best party I ever had at college, at CCS specifically. We went to a party the last day before spring break. And then spring break happened. And then we saw each other again moving out. It was like the scariest thing ever because nobody knew what was going on. It was like, how are we even about to make art? How are we supposed to finish the semester? This isn't like, we're not in a math program. Like you have to have studios, you have to have equipment, like there's a lot of stuff that nobody had. So a lot of us, I think, were very still for a second. Like none of us moved on anything. And we kind of just like sat at home. Additionally, because I was so adamant on being away from home, even though it was 10 minutes away from my house, I didn't come home like that because I wanted to have a separate life and learn myself as an adult. So when I came home, everybody came home. Sisters came home. And it was the first time that as adults, we were all in the same place and it was chaotic. It was extremely chaotic. There were huge arguments from like March to May of 2020. I remember it all, including her. And there were kids, the kids were growing up. It was just a lot going on. And I didn't understand how to actually get through it until I realized that I had a little more control than I thought I did. So what I did was bought a camera because I was saving money for one anyway. And thank God for the relief, checks and stuff. I didn't get like the little what was it called? What was the COVID check called that everybody was getting? The stimulus. I didn't get that because I was blamed by my mother. But the college did give us a little something, people that was blamed. So I added that with my money and I bought a camera. And that was very important because that was the first time that I was like, oh wait, I do have control over this. And I went, spent like all of April and May writing a film. And it was basically about a person who was coming home in the middle of the pandemic and trying to pursue art. It was just a different medium. It was like modeling and designing instead of photography or film. So I wrote a film and then I shot it at my friend's house, Majesty. Shout out to Majesty, she's my sister.
And one of your like #1 collaborators, I think, who
Correct.
you work with quite a bit.
Correct. Majesty is the first person actually that I shot any video with. Her first collection was my first video. So we decided to get together because we knew we had both actually been in the house. We weren't fake quarantining. I didn't go anywhere for literally 3 months. No car. I forgot what it felt like to be in the car for 3 months. It was crazy. And after we worked on the film, I think all the like strength and power came back to me. I was like, oh, there's a way to do this. Like if I keep it minimal right now at a time like this, I can still make it happen. Which I think was important at that time period for sure.
And I feel like there was something else you did that I didn't see until Father's Day.
What did
There
I
was
do?
a photo that you took
There was a photo that I
on the wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That was something that I did. Okay, so the first shoot that I did actually before the film was of my sisters. I had never put them in front of my camera before, but because I had assignments due that required photos and we were all at home, I was like, okay, how do I make this happen? So I shot a short fashion film for it. And I also shot like a photo series that kind of like, I think it showcased what we were going through, but just in a fashion way. It felt super emotional to me to shoot the pictures the way that I did. I'll have to show y'all later, post them later on my story so you can see what I'm talking about. But that was the first shoot that I did in quarantine. And then I kept them to myself until Father's Day. I printed it out and then I gave it to the house basically. But I think that was also the first time we had reconnected for real, like seeing each other as collaborators. They were at school too, everybody was gone. So it was definitely like a hurdle that we jumped over as a house. And then it felt like after that, when summer started and everything started to lift up a little bit, it just got way more lighthearted.
What did you do spiritually during that time to stay grounded?
Music,
I love the question.
music. And did I meditate? Maybe I did.
Oh my goodness.
I think I was meditating. Yeah, I was. So my mother.
Yes,
So-
during that time, I actually held meditation circles for him and his friends
You did.
because they were like, kind of just like, what are we going to do? And we all kind of needed that. So we did like sound baths. We got together a couple times.
Yes, it was after like quarantine was lifted. It was like later in the year, like August, September is when it started, because then we went back to school
Readjusting.
and then it was readjusting.
There's a moment before you went back to school.
Oh, I know. I'm gonna, yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna get to that. But on that note, it's definitely like when you go through a year like that, and there's so many different lives, like January life is different than May, different than October. We definitely needed to figure out a way to like ground everybody involved, because nobody knew what was going on. But that was something very, very big that I think helped us all, me and my friends. It was like 6 or 7 of us that would just get together and be at the house, and we would either eat, she would lead a meditation or a circle, and then we would like journal or talk about a bunch of stuff after the fact. And we definitely, like, the next year was when we like popped out for real. But I think it was because we had that foundation, so that once we went back to school, we were better at like being accountable for each other in certain moments, whether it's somebody not doing their stuff or somebody going through something or whatever is going on. We definitely like became stronger after the year of 2020. And I think we grew artistically after that. But to rewind, in August,
You made a film.
yes, the film came out, and a couple days after that,
There were background conversations.
yes, there were background conversations happening with She Can Feel It.
Yes, so he made that film and he posted it. And from what he posted, it was sweet, right? And on top of it, it was that he was making something that was personal work at the time, where he's going to school. And sometimes when people are caught up in the art school universe, they are only just doing assignments and they're not doing their own work. And the thing that separates, to me, real artists out from that is if they are working on what they want, no matter what, regardless of what assignments are being given to them, right? And that extends like into life when you're shooting commercially or doing anything else. You should always be doing what you want, right? And so he posts this film, and I have a friend who, Sarah Ayers, she's now the director of Signal Return. But at the time, she was running a artist residency out of the Siren in Detroit. And she had already talked to me about having one of the residency spots, but the person who was supposed to be at the same time as me had fallen through. And she was like, okay, so you're gonna be there for a week straight. There's nobody at the hotel. You can do whatever you want during your time there. Who would you be willing to have with you? And I was like, I actually think that Raymar would be really good for this. And she was like, really? Because he's pretty young, are you sure? And I was like, I think you got this. And so we went to this hotel and we each had our own floor, which was actually crazy and cute. And you shot, well, I can remember, and I'll ask you more about this too. So because I have questions about collaboration, because I think also one thing that I think is really important about this show too, in specific, is your ability to collaborate with people either through photography, through filmmaking. I feel like every time that you make something, yes, it's coming from you, but it's also, you're very engaged in the conversation and bringing something out of the people that are in front of you. And so when you were assigned this residency task, right, you were like, okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna bring Majesty with me. And Majesty designed a whole set of everything. So can you go into like what your thought process was with that? With a short period of time having to produce?
That was also something that I was scared of. Most of everything that happened to me in 2020, I didn't know what was going on. So when somebody reached out to me about doing a residency, I was 19 at the time, and I didn't know that was possible. So I was like, what am I about to do? I guess, yeah, let's do it. I asked her about it, and I was like, shouldn't I? It's crazy. She was like, go, do it. Especially if she recommended you, which again, mom power. Keep it around.
Yeah, we stay linked up.
So I go and I decide that I wanted to make a fashion film, because the Siren Hotel, if you've ever been, it's a very it's a boutique hotel. It's vintage. It's really nice on the inside, and everything's super sweet. So with how it looked, I saw similarities in the things that Majesty creates. I usually analyze a lot of stuff. I hyperanalyze everything, honestly. So when I was looking at it and I thought about it beforehand, I was just like, I feel like we could make something really cool because I know her work and I know my work, and I feel like it would work here together. So I called her and she was like, let's do it. So we basically came in Monday, assessed the situation, literally.
Literally.
We walked around the whole thing, scouted the whole thing. She was there planning her stuff and figuring her stuff out. And we decided we were gonna do like a 3-piece collection, and we had to make it in 2 days because I had to shoot it before we left. So between Monday and Friday, this all had to happen. So we figured out what we were doing. We went on Tuesday to go buy everything, like buy fabric, buy pieces, whatever. And then she spent Tuesday into Wednesday finishing like most of the looks, both like 2 of the looks. And then we shot that the first day, and then we shot like the last stuff the second day. And then like we kind of video journaled in the middle of it to talk about like how chaotic it actually felt, because it really was chaotic, but like it was so fun. Because we were just running around this empty hotel creating in real time. And not only was it a deadline, but it was a fun deadline, which I think is what made the difference. Like it was like, nobody can like beat me up if I don't complete this, but at the same time, I beat myself up if I didn't complete this. So how do we do this in time? And I knew that she could, I knew that I could. So
I think it was also an equalizer for the 2 of us too, because that was also the first time that, even though I recommended you for it, I was like, I'm an artist here, he's an artist here, I'm just gonna operate like we're artists here. Like there was no like, you're my student, let me show you how to do this, whatever. I was like, all right, we're showing up this day, this is what's happening. It was a shift in
our relationship.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. We like would sit at the table at the front on the first floor and just work on stuff. In my head, I was like, this is gonna be my teacher in high school. But like out loud, it was like whatever, because I was legitimately doing stuff and she didn't like overbear herself with like trying to guide me to do anything, or like she would just ask questions like normally, and then we would talk normally. And I think that was when we switched over to like equal adults. And it kept going after that, which we'll get to later. But that was like definitely the first time that I could recognize that she was somebody I could keep around, but also like as a mentor and as a guy, because she didn't turn herself into one without me asking. She would just let me do what I had to do. And then if I came, she would always be there. So now I can trust her to come when I don't want her to, because she's gonna do it at the right times. So yeah, that experience was really good from a like relationship and spiritual standpoint, but also I learned a lot about like working on tasks, how to utilize locations in a lot of ways, because the candy bar was there, but it wasn't open to the public. So I had all that space to do whatever I needed to.
You did the roof at one point.
Yeah, we were on the roof.
Other restaurant.
We were up at the stairs. We were up. Yeah, we were in the staircase upstairs. And then it eventually led to actually having our own residency there, which was great because she made a whole different collection that she ended up bringing me back for to shoot the pictures for. So it just kind of rolled from there.
Okay, so let's speed through time for a second. We're now at CCS at the end, your senior year, whatever. You're making your final like big body of work, which I feel like is essentially like a precursor to this work, right? The Crown's work. So let's talk about that a little bit, like your thought process through it, how you were shooting that, how you were deciding to do it, what you were doing with like materiality and different things with it, because you were using hair sculpturally. There's a lot of things to discuss.
Yeah. So I think when I got to my senior thesis, I thought about it. The idea hit me junior year. So I was kind of working on it and like developing it during that year. I knew that I wanted to have the fashion element, the fashion photography element in this series, because that's what I based it. But I needed it to be more personal than just that. And I think that project was the first project that actually felt like I was saying something, versus just photographing pretty people in pretty clothes. So I created a body of work that was about me, but I basically used me as the platform to then build, about basically like Black men in relationship to hair and growing up with that relationship and how that is perceived. So I shot different people that I knew, my siblings, other people that I knew, my friends, and did like physical hair sculptures built into their hair to showcase like different ways to do it, whatever. And it was a very like baby version of what I would do now, obviously. But I think it was really cool at the time because like, one, it was not just personal, it was also like still pushing it fashion-wise. And that's something that I really like to do in my work, and having that like balance of like still pushing it, still want to do editorial stuff. But I still felt connected to it because I was doing their hair in real time. So like that process, like getting your hair done by somebody is the whole thing. It's what you talk about, like all the topics that come out, it's a whole therapy session basically. So like having that connection to each of my models and kind of going through that and learning about them more was really fun and fulfilling in the process. And I did all of them, I did most of them in studio. I started to branch out. The last shoot I did before was actually inside of a home, which definitely sparked the rest of this. My style shifted after that shoot. Shout out to Dina Lawson, that's my girl. I really like the way she puts together portraiture inside of homes and spaces, but we'll get to that later, of course. So yeah, I think that series was definitely a big like stepping stone for my style and the way that I approach photography, because before that, it was definitely just more so portraiture, how do I make it look right, like how's the lighting, how do the clothes look, and how do people look. That was my approach before that point.
I felt like that was when you really made a statement as an artist too, like to stand out. And it was funny to me because most of you are too young to know what I'm talking about, but Detroit was the hair capital. We used to have hair shows, and model hair sculpture was like that back in the day. Like I was in the hair shows and the hair magazines before. Went out of town to her, she was about 6 years old. And when I saw that, I'm like, where did you even think to do this? Like, when did you decide to do this? It put me in that thought process, and that those memories came back to me as well. So that was one of my favorites. It was very different, and a lot of males don't talk about that and how, in some spaces, you can't wear your hair a certain way as Black men. So that was really good. I was very proud of you as usual. As usual.
I feel like we have collected the pieces to get in here now, right? Okay. So can you just give us the quick elevator pitch of
Like
what's happening? What are we in? What's happening? What's happening here?
Okay. It's so hard. This is hard because it came in phases. That's the problem with this whole thing. So here's what I'm gonna say. The concept itself. This show is about getting myself through a time where I feel frozen or stuck in time. So like how in real life, like take art out of it. In real life, when things are happening to me and I feel like I can no longer go forward, what do I do in that moment? How do I move forward? And the way that I know to move forward is by spending time with the people that know me and the spaces that I'm comfortable with. So like comfort in second homes, third homes even. And I wanted to make the body work about it. That's literally what it was. It being my first show was one thing, but I felt like I just couldn't have a show that, or a series rather, that didn't show people who I was, but not literally just me. It's like all these people made me into this right now. And I wanted to showcase that through the photos. That's the short version.
Okay.
Mara, I have a question.
Sure. What's your question?
I love the process and what you printed on or what you, could you talk about your experimentation and your alteration of these photos, which I find fascinating?
Yeah, because materiality is really important. And from a historical standpoint, when people talk about alternative processes, they tend to only think about alternative historical processes, but alternative processes has an umbrella that also includes experimental, new media, all of that. So,
Yes.
how and why?
Okay. So to backtrack a little bit, I definitely think I started to get more physical with my work right before college ended because I was getting tired of backdrops, like just regular backdrops. So I started to do more like drapery or like prop inclusion, like art direction more so with my photos. And then when the hair sculptures happened, it was still a physicality to that, like doing something with my hands. And I think I just was craving that again with my new work, like having some sense of more physicality to it, because, instruments, dancing, performing, that's a very physical process. So I think just naturally I'm more inclined to do that type of thing. So that's like a back thought, like an afterthought. But the main thought behind the medal was because I was in class one time, and my last semester of college, everything hit me my last semester of college. I don't know what's going on. But I was in class, in my acting class, and we had to do a demo of an acting coach, each one of us. My friend Maroon did a guided meditation by the acting coach he was studying. And the guided meditation, we had to visualize a door and then go through these steps to move through the door. And so when we shared out, I remember the conversation, and my door was this metal door that was just made of overlapping tiles. That was what I saw in my head. And it was no doorknob on it. I couldn't even get through the door for a while because I was not good at meditating at the time, she could tell you. But that's not something, I couldn't sit still like that and pretend to let the thoughts go away. It's not real. I'm gonna think about something when I close my eyes. So I wasn't good at it. So when I was sitting there and that came to my head, I felt like that was metaphorical for a lot of things. Didn't know it was after college, don't know how to be an adult yet. What's happening to me? I have a show next week and it has this, and I'm the senior select, so I gotta make sure it's right. Just so many things that I didn't know the answer to, and I felt like that metal door was in between me and the answers. So I sketched it out and I left it in my book for years, until 2024. And I did my self-portraits, which are back there. I wanted to showcase that feeling through a photo. So I did my self-portraits and I did the transfer on the aluminum rather than just the paper prints. That was the first time I took a chance on the concept. I knew I wanted to do it the whole time. It took 2 years, but I knew I wanted to do it. And I was just kind of scared to do it. Additionally, because I am used to my work looking a certain way. And baby brain is, I don't think it's going to be receivable if I change. So if I switch from this studio, overly lit, whatever, to this, I didn't think it would make sense to anybody else. So I didn't do it for a couple years. And I had to go live life because the college was hard. So I wanted to just breathe for a second. So once I took the shot at that, it became one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. And I thought it was very, very representative of what that door was in my head. And I knew I had to continue that thought on in the process.
So for everybody in the room who's not photo nerdy, you have to explain how this happens.
All right.
Because this is a real nerdy thing.
So
for real.
Here's what's going on. Everybody's asking did I paint on it or whatever, but no. What's happening is I am transferring the photos onto the metal via a solution. So I have to mix together some stuff, and then you print the photos out on a clear translucent transfer paper, and the solution is laid on top of the metal first, or whatever you want to transfer onto. You can transfer onto anything, if that makes sense. But you lay it on top, and then it just pulls the emotion off of the picture, off of the paper. So when you pull it back, it's like a temporary tattoo almost. It's a little different, but it's the same concept, but it's not as temporary. So yeah, you're essentially just pulling off the photo and then doing it that way. Now there is a lot of factors that go into that because that changes the print. So when you have a digital print on a screen, the colors are not going to be the same as you would when you put it on something like metal, because metal has already a gray to it versus a white. So it was an interesting process. It was cute at first because I didn't care. I only had the pictures of me. So at the time I was like, okay, cute, this is so sweet. I don't have to show any of the digital photos besides the other one that I like also over there. But then when I started making the body of work, I was like, okay, I actually have to think about how I grade this and how I do this color-wise. So yeah, that's the process. It's essentially just boom, on top. But it's by hand, and very tedious, and I went through a lot of metal to get to this point.
And I will also say that metal of the transfer processes is the most difficult one.
Yeah.
So it has the worst percentage of success rate because it is so easy to scratch it, to move it, to half of it flying off of it when you lift it up.
It's extremely slippery. It's
a nightmare.
I learned that very, very easily. It's extremely slippery. She's done transference on different things like wood and stuff and like a whole bunch of other stuff. And it's just not the same. It doesn't have the same teeth as like a different material does.
It doesn't have the porosity.
Yeah, exactly. So it slips and it's so easy to mess it up. So I definitely went through quite a lot of metal, thank God.
So the fact that this whole room, all the images are clean in it is a really like a feat, actually. You did that, buddy.
How did you get the color on some of the metal pictures?
You can print on colors on the paper. So I'm not gonna lie. Somebody asked me this question. Actually, Kat asked me this question yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. She asked me about like the choices between color and black and white and why that happened. So at first I was doing mainly black and white because, first of all, the reason I did the picture of me on the black and white to begin with was because I wanted to showcase like the aftermath of being 23, the worst age ever to ever be. And when that happened, I just didn't see color. It wasn't giving colorful for me. It was giving dark, black and white.
I had no clue the whole time.
Yeah.
He
So
says this all the time, and every time it blows my mind.
it's chopped. It's a chopped number.
23 was chopped.
22 was so hot, and then like 23 was just whatever. So I posed myself in a way that was like very wounded and like just
Giving chop.
giving chop.
Slide on the wall and all that.
And if you notice, the very last photo at the end is in color, but it's from the same shoot. That's because that's all I wanted my 24 to feel. I wanted to have more direct eye contact with that photo. I wanted to be more hopeful about the future. And 24 was amazing, so it worked. But moving
That's all
forward,
manifesting.
yes, exactly. Moving forward to the series, I really felt like I wanted to do the black and white as a main base because I really think it feels more cemented in history that way for some reason. And I also think it just like, there's something very classic about a black and white that I've always been attracted to. Even when I was just doing digital stuff, I had like 3 different black and white grades that I always used in my photos. I always feel like it just exudes so much emotion. And when you're less distracted by the colors, you just kind of focus more on posture, body, people, everything else. So I think the black and white definitely stuck around because of that. And then as I progressed, I kept like going back to the thought of like war, history, war in the family, history of the family, black and white to like the future of us all. So I did a lot of color with just the kids. I think besides my grandmother's photo, the only ones that are all in full color are all of the kids, all my siblings that are after me. And I think that's because I see them as next, like as what the future is and like the hope of what's going on in the family. Like if we got it wrong, then you can get it right. And that's kind of how I perceived everything for your baby. Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think that was a choice. Like the color was definitely a choice to just showcase that hopefulness and excitement for the future and figuring things out that way. And the black and white was a way to just like introduce and cement people and places in a more historical and permanent manner.
Okay, so 2 things. We are going to have a Q&A, so I love to give people a chance to think about their questions and formulate it back there. So there's your warning. Okay. Okay, so clearly we're here. We're at Playground, right? We're here for a very specific reason, though, and that's because you received an Emerging Artist Fellowship. So can you talk more about that process and also being a part of that cohort and how that helped you develop?
So I've been coming to Playground for a couple of years, since maybe 2022. I actually produced somebody else's show here at Playground in 2022. Shaw Kane, their performer, I helped put the show on and project visuals and whatever. That was my first time actually being exposed to Paulina in the space. And since then, I've been just like coming around, seeing everything that's been going on and just existing in the space. I really enjoy coming here and the shows that I've seen. And last year, the applications went out. I had never applied to it before. I had always thought about it, but I just, again, wasn't at the point where I felt like it made sense for me. Or I wasn't ready.
Like everyone wants to.
This one here, growing up, you have to do this. So you want to do it.
He only does things when he is determined that it's his idea.
You know what I'm
My
saying?
God.
And then when he does it, oh, it's so fun. I said, I know it would be.
Yeah.
He was like, he's so in his head about so many things. I'm like,
We
you have
told him to
try
apply for
this.
this thing like literally for
I'm
4
gonna be
years
honest,
before this
They
point.
both did. They both literally wanted me to apply.
When the person who is at the gallery is telling you to apply for the thing, it might be an indicator. I'm just saying.
I just wasn't, in my mind, I just wasn't ready, y'all. It wasn't giving it your time. Yeah, I wanted to like really come at it with something. Like I wanted to come at it with something that was gonna be like, yeah, like this is what it needs to get.
Ready for the divine spot.
Yeah.
You are the divine.
So thank you.
Oh, see, that's cute.
So all last year, actually, here's the gag. I did not know this was gonna be my first show until after I got the acceptance letter. Because I was working on a completely different series all last year. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen the waterwork. And that idea came to me at the same time as this idea in 2022. But I also felt it was too different, didn't know how to get to it, didn't know how to edit it, didn't know what to do. So last year was the first time I took a crack at that, and I was working all year on that. But when I applied to this, I applied and showcased work from both of these series. And really, it was a financial conversation for me because I'm like, the waterwork costs way less money to produce. So if I really had to put on my own show for it, I probably could do that a little easier than this. And another reason why I hadn't gone so deep into this work was because it does cost money, like the metal and the solution and like figuring out the scale and all of that. I just didn't put that much money into it before, and I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I think now is the time to get help on this financial backing.
And this fellowship is sponsored by a foundation, right? Which foundation?
Yes, the Gilbert Foundation.
Yes.
And I just knew that this concept was very strong and I needed to make it happen. I wanted to do it now because also as an adult, I've been just like losing people. And I realized too in the process of doing this, I hadn't shot most of my family. I had shot random people. So I was like, this is the time to immortalize my people in my way. That's not somebody else or traditional. Yeah, I've been telling my dad I wanted to do our family photos for like at least 3 years. I just never got around to it, and we always were across the world. So this was the way to do it. Like I was like, okay, this concept is ready. I know I can do it. I just need help doing it. And I also wanted like an outsider perspective who doesn't typically have that much access to me, like in the way that they would. So I thought doing the fellowship was a good way to kind of like get into a different group of people and also be exposed to other artists who may be going through a similar feeling or process. And I also think, to answer the second part of the question, I really like being in the fellowship because it feels like I'm back in college. I haven't felt like I've learned this much at once since college, like at one time, since December to now. There's been so much to learn on so many different levels of this. I feel like
solo
it's insane. I really didn't
people
realize.
Don't know.
I didn't realize how crazy this was until it was happening to me.
I have a question. Back a little bit to your music background. So when I used to write, I used to hear music, like I could hear the soundtrack of writing and stuff out. Did you hear music and you shoot photography?
Or do you see
Or
it
did
when
you
you
see it? Did you see colors? Or did you have like a soundtrack in your head? Did you play music and you took pictures?
Now, after the show is up, and before each shoot, I do have songs that are playing in my head. I will say that. Before though, I saw the songs and the music after they were finished, or as I'm editing them. Most times, I'm more focused on like just the vibe. Like half of these shoots, if any. I don't even think I even played music for any of these shoots actually, which is usually what I do. It was very odd. But I also think because it was family, I was talking to them. It just felt like we was at the house. So usually I am more like music in the front of the project, but I think it was happening as it was going for me in this specific thing because I was more focused on the connection and the relationships. So I definitely see music when I see the photos. Like I have a song for basically everything in this. And I did actually make a playlist for this series right after I finished my self-portraits. So in 2024, I made a playlist called LIGHTSTRUCK, and that's been a thing on my phone for a couple of years. So I also always knew that when I was gonna have my first solo show, this was gonna be the title of it too, for years. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna ask one last thing, but then we're gonna open it up to questions. Because it would just be so terrible not to talk about the adventure that you had while shooting your grandma.
Which
Please talk about it. Please talk about it because it's so funny, and I feel like we need a little bit of funny. Because this is all so serious. I mean, look at them. Everybody's high fashion, hot, right? No, there was an adventure happening in real time.
Okay, actually, that's another thing I want to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna say this. This project, I had so much fun doing the shoots for these because it was family. Like, they don't typically see me work, so like being in that space with them was really, really cool. And I would say that my most memorable shoots are the one with my grandma. I'm gonna explain why. But it was also the one with all of my siblings, the kids, because they were directing. It was like I was seeing things, and then after I would shoot a picture, because they're kids, they don't have like, they just want to say what they're gonna say. So they like, can I try this? Can I do this? I want to get on top of the fence. Can we hold this like this? Absolutely, go do it. Like it was so cool because like I hadn't seen them in that way either. Most times, especially specifically for history, I have half siblings that are on my dad's side that live in Canada, so I don't see them every day like I would my siblings over here. But I know that like a couple of them are my art siblings, and the rest of them are athletes. So like seeing the art siblings pick up this shoot and be like, let's do this. They were telling me what to do, and I really enjoyed it. That was like a super, super fun experience. And then the shoot with my grandma, which produced.
Make it not a full detail adventure.
That photo right there. That.
Look at her, she's beautiful. With
that's one of my
disguising the chaos behind her.
Yes, so right maybe an hour before this, we tried to do this, right? No, it was probably 2 hours. It was way brighter outside. Actually, yes, so there's a photo right here, sorry. There's a photo at the corner, right above Paulina. That picture was like 2 hours before that photo, right?
The top one.
Yes, the top one. That was 2 hours before that photo. The reason being was because a squirrel decided to take over the shoot. It was his world and we were living in it. He walked, I didn't even see the squirrel. I was taking that photo and my grandma was like, it's a squirrel about to crawl on you. And I was like, what do you mean? And I looked down and he was just on my ankle, like getting ready to crawl up my whole leg. And first of all, I didn't know squirrels got down like that. I thought they were scared of people. Like I thought they just ran away. So I was like, okay, I just, shake him off, whatever. No, he came back. He came back and stood there. And I did after. He came up and stood there. And then I tried to shoo him away. Then he climbed on the fabric that she was wearing and was going.
Mind you, she's attached to the tree.
So in that photo, she's tied to the tree. So he's getting on the fabric and she can't even run up there. It was so fun. I was losing my mind. I'm like, wait, there was like a camera in my hand. There's everybody else in the house. Nobody knows what's going on. She's screaming. My cousin boyfriend pull up at the worst time possible. And he's like, what's going on? And he grabbing my camera. He run in the house. I'm trying to fight the squirrel off, but also unattach her from the tree in real time. Then she run in the house. And then we sit there. The squirrel jumps in between the screen doors, crawls through the screen door, in between the door. I have it on video. I have the whole thing on video. I'm gonna post it. I have the entire thing on video. He crawled in between the screen door and the front door, and it's just crawling around trying to get in the house. And then we hit it so he goes away. I don't want to kill it. I'm not gonna kill no squirrel, y'all. That's fun. So he runs, And I'm like, okay, maybe we could do it somewhere else, like on the side of the house. We open the side door, he comes to the side door.
Oh my goodness.
And he scratched like in between the door frame and the actual door, and like his nails was coming through it. And then he crawled up on that door and he like tried to scratch through that screen. Like it was a crazy, it lasted for like 40 minutes. Like we were going back and forth between the doors to see if he was going somewhere, and he was following us. And I thought that was the craziest thing I had ever seen in my life. I was laughing very hard, but it was extremely unserious because why are you doing this? But also, is that simple? Like, am I missing something? Is somebody like?
And the fact that that is what ended up coming out of that shit is
Correct.
also crazy.
Correct. So,
Okay, so let's jump to, question. We have time for a few questions. We have time for a few. Yes, Deja.
I have a few things. First of all, I feel like that's somebody that is connected to you. Cause also I love that you call your younger siblings like the kids, cause we do the same thing in our family.
Mhm.
Even once they get older, I don't know what it is. But I am interested in environments too, and like your layering techniques and how you allow to like use nature. And even, I don't know if it's your home, or where each of these environments are when they're inside. But can you talk a little bit about how you allow nature and like other spaces to be a collaborator as well?
for sure.
Okay, so we have to repeat the question so that we make sure that everybody can hear it. So nature, environment,
Yes.
layering.
Yes. All right. How I use environment and nature in my work in this series. Got it.
Yes.
Very intentional choice. I'm glad you asked. And one, from a conceptual standpoint, I wanted to, like I said earlier, showcase the places that made me who I am. So I'm only using actual homes that they live in. So it's like my mom's house. It's my dad's Airbnb they had that worked out beautifully because also in the middle of this process, the house caught on fire. So oddly enough, one of the only things that survived the fire was one of my pieces from the Crown series, which I also thought was crazy. But that was a lot to deal with in the middle of it. So like I just felt even more inclined to only use that kind of setting in houses and homes because that felt true to the people that I was photographing. And I also didn't want it to feel like super costumey and studio and produced. So everything is at a house, their house, my basement, grandma's house, the driveway, and living rooms. And I also think there was a like unexpected still life element that came out of this project that I wasn't expecting before I started. I did a lot of like object, and even for the new like photos that are out, there's a lot of like prop and object and still life included in this because I think like specifically cars are definitely a big part of like how I understand life because I spent so much time in them as a kid, and so do my siblings with me. So like having that showcased, like the wheel over there, my dad's car in multiple of the photos, that's just like 2004 Impala. So I basically grew up in that car. And then I have my brothers, they're like inside of the wheel from Oak Park, like the Shepherd Park, because they go there now, but I also went there as a kid. And so like, I felt like having that element was super, super important to what I was trying to say because I wouldn't be me without that. So yeah, I wanted to include that for that reason.
The wheel made me think of you can get it down the door too, like getting a bar or getting rolling.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And also layering. I shot like a lot of texture pack for this. I actually shot most of the texture packs on my phone because I was in the wild. So I would like see stuff. I tend to see stuff and then know I'm gonna use it for something, but not really know at the time. So like that kind of like corroded metal looking element, like the gold in the front and like all the rest of it on the wheel and in my photos. That was a piece of swatch from the CCS library that I saw in like February when I was walking out. So I had shot a lot of this and not even had that yet. And I was walking out and I saw this like golden leather swatch in the front, and I took a picture of it on my phone, like 4 different versions of it. and I just used them and kind of blended them into it because I felt like it had the same materiality finish for the photos. So I'm doing a lot of that, even in my waterwork. It's like 3 different photos put together or like layered on top of each other to kind of create more of that texture, whatever element I'm working in.
Also, I'm sure you can chase him down if you have more questions later, but we have time for one more question. Go for it.
So in the age of like social media and having like a lot of copy and paste artists, how are you able to create your own unique style?
Creating a style, age of social media.
Yes.
You have a love-hate relationship with social media.
Yes,
I love this
yes.
question for you.
Yes.
I do. Okay, so actually, creating a style has always been something I've had a problem with in my eyes, because it just doesn't tend to look on the surface level the same. So I'm realizing that my style now, I think it came on its own. I think it's based in environmental style portraiture. Because to me, some stuff just don't be looking the same. It just looks like a completely different person shot it sometimes. And I think I'm okay with that as long as like my composition voice is like full. And I think that's what it is. I think like finding your style now is about whatever element makes you the strongest. So like if you know that you are great with group photos or with multiple people with photos, then capitalize on that. Or if you know that you are somebody who likes to do something that is more studio, but based in like line or color or sculpture, like how do you incorporate that kind of thing into the work that you're creating? And that can go for any kind of art, any kind of like thing. But I think with social media, it is very easy to see stuff and copy it, not even intentionally. And especially like me, I watch so many things and see so many things. But I definitely always try to make sure that like I'm not copying somebody just because I would rather have my own voice. But yeah, I think it just comes with creating more. The more you make, the more you start to realize there are like threads in between pieces, threads in between whatever you're doing, even if it's song. Music is even, I think, more of like a copy and paste space right now. So like just creating more will lead you to realize what your natural niche is, and style. And like, I know what my songwriting voice is now, that took years to get to. And I know what I want to do now, like with my work and how I want to progress in music, film, fashion.
One time he told me that he really wanted to go full thought with music, but he thought it didn't make sense for what he was doing. And I'm like, you're a photographer and a filmmaker. You can do a whole soundtrack by yourself. So I'm glad you figured that out as far as music, because you kind of put it on the back burner, which was surprising. I'm like, check my music. And you're like, no, I'm over here. I'm like, okay, well. Yeah, when you told me that, I'm like,
I'm a very,
he didn't think it
I'm
was.
a very overly logical person sometimes. So
He's a Virgo. He'll talk himself about anything.
yeah, not too much on Virgos. Okay. Some of the best. Beyonce's Virgo too. If you didn't know.
Michael Jackson, okay.
Yeah, and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And the King there like was also a Virgo. So, but yes.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, real quick, real succinct. Future, what are we doing?
Great question.
Understanding now.
Well, I'm definitely continuing this series. I'm actually not done at all. I have so many more people to photograph in my family, and I also am doing a second phase where I'm doing my chosen family, so like all my closest friends and their families. So I imagine this will just go on for some time, but I definitely want to continue to showcase that. And aside from this, I got the festival coming up with Mags, our photo and film festival, Nova 24, pop out in July. And I also want to continue to scale in the fine art space, like just make bigger pieces. I actually have plans. I have metal pieces, I have copper pieces that I haven't released. I have bigger metal pieces that I could not create because my material was backordered, like the transfer paper, the big paper. Is backordered, so I have to wait till that gets here. But I'm gonna do some bigger transfers and do like even bigger work just because I like that idea. So yeah, just creating more, having more fun, dancing more, and making more music. That's my plans.
That's great. Well, I'm grateful to Paulina for allowing us to have this space to be able to have this
Thank you.
conversation with you. This was really cute.
Thank you guys.